He stood there, frozen. The woman he loved, the one he was supposed to marry, was walking down the aisle toward another man. Her eyes didn't meet his. Her silence screamed louder than words. Just days ago, she promised him forever. Now, she was someone else's bride. Why did she leave him? What shattered her love so suddenly? Was it betrayal? Fear? Or a truth too painful to share? He couldn't understand. He couldn't breathe. But one thing was certain. His heart was breaking as he watched the love of his life become a stranger's wife. And yet, fate wasn't finished with their story. Because even after all the pain, all the silence, all the heartbreak, some loves are too strong to die. This is not just a love story. It's a storm of heartbreak, secrets, and second chances. Because sometimes, the person who hurt you the most is the only one your heart will ever belong to. Have you seen this unforgettable love story before? If yes, tap like and let's feel it all over again. Hazal was a girl of the sea. She grew up in a small coastal town where the waves whispered dreams and the wind carried promises. She wasn't rich. She didn't ask for much. All she wanted was a simple, honest love. And she found it in Kenan. Kenan was a fisherman, hardworking, kind, with a heart as deep as the ocean. He wasn't perfect, but when he looked at Hazal, he looked at her like she was his entire world. They were young, but their love felt eternal. The kind that doesn't shake with storms. The kind that roots itself in the soul. Kenan planned everything. He wanted to marry Hazal, to build a small life with her by the sea. He even bought her a ring, the black pearl, a symbol of rare love, the kind that only comes once. But love stories rarely stay simple. Vural, a wealthy and powerful man, entered their world. Cold, controlling, dangerous. He saw Hazal once and decided she would be his, no matter what it cost. Hazal and Kenan were about to announce their engagement when everything shattered. One night, Hazal disappeared. She was forced into a nightmare she didn't choose. Vural threatened everything she held dear. Her mother, Kenan, her future. Hazal was trapped, torn between love and fear. She made the hardest choice of her life. She broke Kenan's heart, without explaining, without warning. She ended it. Kenan was crushed. He didn't understand. The girl who once held his hand now looked at him like a stranger. She told him she never loved him, that it was all a lie. And then she walked away, into a world that didn't belong to her. But deep inside, her heart screamed, because every word she said was a lie. She still loved him, more than ever. But she thought pushing him away would keep him safe. Kenan, though heartbroken, never stopped loving her. He didn't believe her words. He saw the pain in her eyes. He knew something was wrong. And so, the boy who once smiled with the sun in his eyes turned into a man with fire in his soul, determined to find out the truth, determined to win back the only woman he ever loved. Hazal and Kenan's love story had just begun, but now it had turned into a storm, one full of secrets, tears, and choices that could never be undone. And yet, somewhere deep in their hearts, they still believed in each other, because when a love is real, it doesn't disappear. It just waits for the right moment to rise again. Kenan could still hear her words. "I never loved you." She said it without blinking, without trembling. But her eyes betrayed her. They held the truth. Pain, regret, fear. Kenan didn't believe the lie. He knew Hazal better than anyone. The girl who used to hold his hand at the shore, who dreamed of a small house by the sea. That girl wouldn't just throw him away. But she did. And now, Hazal was someone else's bride. Vural, a man with money, power, and secrets buried deep. He had taken Hazal, but not her heart. She stood beside him in a wedding gown, but her soul was somewhere else, still by the sea, still with Kenan. Kenan watched from a distance as Hazal entered a world of cold walls and silent dinners. He tried to move on, to erase her from his life, but every wave, every breeze, every place brought her back. Hazal, too, was drowning in sorrow. She couldn't tell Kenan the truth. Vural had threatened everything. Her family, Kenan's life, even her own safety. So she became a prisoner in a mansion, a wife only by name, a woman chained by fear. But love doesn't die so easily. One day, fate brought them face to face. At a crowded event, their eyes met. And in that brief moment, time stopped. No words were said. No one else existed. Just two broken hearts, remembering what it felt like to be whole. Kenan saw the pain she tried to hide. Hazal saw the anger he carried, mixed with longing. They didn't speak. They didn't need to, because everything was still there. The love, the ache, the question. Why? Kenan's world turned upside down again. He couldn't forget that look. He couldn't believe she chose someone like Vural over a life with him. But he didn't know the truth. Not yet. Hazal stayed silent. Her silence was her shield. But deep inside, her heart whispered his name every night. She held the black pearl ring like a secret memory, the promise of a love she had buried but never let go. Meanwhile, Viral started sensing something. Jealousy crept in. He realized Hazal's body was his, but her heart wasn't, and that made him dangerous. The more Hazal tried to act like everything was fine, the more trapped she became. Kenan, too, changed. He began to harden. He pushed himself into work. He built walls around his heart. But late at night, he still dreamed of her, of what they could have been, of the life stolen from them. Two souls torn apart by silence, still beating for each other, still searching for the courage to find their way back. Time passed, but the pain didn't. Kenan tried to live, to forget, to fill the silence Hazal left behind. He told himself she didn't love him, that her choice was clear, but his heart knew better. Every time he looked at the sea, he remembered her. Every breath carried her name. Hazal, on the other hand, was lost behind glass walls. She wore a smile that wasn't hers. She walked halls that felt like prison. Viral tried to play the perfect husband, kind in front of others, but cold when they were alone. He saw it in her eyes. She was never truly his, and that scared him more than anything. Hazal spent her days in silence, her nights in tears. She couldn't reach out to Kenan. She couldn't explain why she left, because Viral had made it clear. If she ever told the truth, he would destroy Kenan. So she suffered alone. But Kenan couldn't stay away forever. Their paths crossed again. This time, not by accident, but by fate's quiet force. He saw her at a charity event, beautiful as ever, but different. Her eyes were heavy. Her laugh wasn't real. And when she looked at him, just for a second, he saw it. The old Hazal, the girl who once ran into his arms, the girl who promised forever. That moment broke him. He couldn't hold it anymore. He pulled her aside. "Tell me," he whispered. "Tell me why you left. Just once. I need to hear it." Hazal froze. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Only tears. And silence. That silence crushed him. He walked away, angry, hurt, confused. Hazal watched him go, wishing she could scream the truth, wishing she could hold him once more. But fear held her back. The next day, Kenan decided something. If Hazal wouldn't tell him the truth, he would find it himself. He started digging into Viral's past, looking for answers, anything to explain the woman Hazal had become. And slowly, cracks began to show. Kenan didn't know where it would lead, but he knew one thing. His love wasn't gone, and he wasn't ready to give up. Hazal, meanwhile, stood at her window every night, looking at the sea, holding the ring he once gave her, still in love, still waiting, still scared. Two hearts, one truth, and a growing storm that neither of them could stop. Kenan couldn't rest. Hazal's silence haunted him. He had seen something in her eyes, pain, regret, and love. She was hiding something, and he knew it now. So he followed his instincts. He looked into Viral, his business, his past, his secrets, and the more he learned, the more it made sense. Viral wasn't the man he claimed to be. He was controlling, dangerous, and somehow he had forced Hazal into this marriage. Kenan felt rage rising in him, but with it came something stronger, determination. He wouldn't give up, not until he knew the whole truth. Meanwhile, Hazal's life was growing darker. Viral had started changing. He became more possessive, more suspicious, and less kind. He didn't just want Hazal beside him, he wanted to own her. She tried to stay strong, tried to keep the peace, but inside she was breaking. Then something unexpected happened. Kenan found a photograph, an old one. It showed Hazal, with Viral, on the day they signed their marriage papers. She wasn't smiling, her eyes looked empty. That photo confirmed everything. She didn't marry him by choice. Kenan confronted Hazal again. This time, he didn't beg. He didn't cry. He just looked her in the eyes and said, "I know you're lying, and I know you're not happy." Hazal froze. She wanted to confess, to fall into his arms and tell him everything. But again, fear won. She turned away. "It's too late, Kenan." But he wasn't giving up, not this time. "You can lie to me, but don't lie to yourself," he said softly. Hazal closed her eyes. Because the truth was, she still loved him, more than ever. And now, she wasn't the only one in danger. Viral had started watching Kenan too. He felt Hazal slipping away, and he would do anything to stop it. Hazal was trapped between two fires, the love she never stopped feeling, and the fear that controlled her every step. One night, she sat alone with her old journal. She wrote his name over and over, Kenan, the man who gave her the black pearl, the man who taught her what love felt like, the man she let go. To protect him, tears fell on the pages. "I'm still yours," she wrote quietly. "I always was." But could love survive when truth was buried under so many lies? And could Kenan hold on when everything around them was built to tear them apart? Chapter 5. Hazal had reached her limit. She couldn't keep pretending, couldn't keep living a life that wasn't hers. Every day in that house felt colder. Every moment with Viral felt heavier. But Kenan's words kept echoing in her mind. "You can lie to me, but don't lie to yourself." She couldn't shake them. She tried to bury her feelings. But love doesn't die in silence. Kenan, on the other hand, had started to understand everything. He now saw how deeply trapped Hazal was, emotionally and physically. But he also saw the fire still alive in her eyes. He just had to reach it. One afternoon, fate stepped in again. They ran into each other by the sea. The same sea that once knew their laughter. The same waves that had carried their dreams. They didn't speak right away. They just stood there, letting the silence say what words could not. And then Hazal broke. Tears filled her eyes. "I wanted to protect you," she whispered. "That's why I left. That's why I married him." Kenan's world froze. He had waited so long to hear the truth. And now it came, in the softest, saddest way. Hazal finally told him everything. How Viral had threatened his life. How fear had ruled her heart. How every day without Kenan felt like a slow death. Kenan didn't speak. He just held her. Tightly, like he would never let go again. But reality wasn't kind. Viral found out they had met, and his fury was dangerous. He reminded Hazal again of what he could do. Not just to Kenan, but to everyone she loved. Hazal felt the walls closing in once more. But this time, something inside her had changed. She was tired of fear, tired of hiding, tired of choosing silence over love. Kenan saw it too. She was stronger now. Not the same girl who walked away, but a woman who had faced pain and still chose love. They began meeting in secret, not to escape, but to build courage. Their love wasn't wild anymore. It was quiet, brave. They made plans, not just to be together, but to fight back, to finally free themselves from the lies and control. Hazal wrote a letter, a confession of everything that had happened, in case something went wrong. Kenan promised her, "We'll make it. I won't lose you again." Their hands touched, their hearts held tight. But the road ahead was still dangerous. And Viral was watching closely. The storm wasn't over. But for the first time, they weren't afraid to face it together. Hazal had found her strength. For so long, fear had been her prison. But now, love was becoming her freedom. She had told Kenan the truth. She had chosen him again, not in secret, but with her whole heart. They started meeting in quiet corners, in the hidden spaces of their world. Each moment felt fragile, but real. Kenan held her hand like it was a promise that no matter what came next, they wouldn't run again. But Viral wasn't blind. He could feel the distance. He could see the light in Hazal's eyes every time she returned home. And he knew. It wasn't because of him. The more he felt her slipping away, the more dangerous he became. Hazal began to fear again. Not for herself, but for Kenan. She begged him to be careful, to stay away for a little while. But Kenan couldn't walk away. Not this time. He began gathering evidence, to expose Viral's lies, to break the hold he had over her. Hazal, meanwhile, made a choice. She confronted Viral. She stood before him trembling, but her voice steady. "You can't own me. I'm not afraid of you anymore." Viral was stunned. This wasn't the girl he had manipulated into marriage. This was a woman who had been broken, but chose to rise. She left the house that night, not with a plan, not with safety, but with courage. She ran straight to Kenan. He opened the door and found her soaked in rain, but full of light. "I want to live," she said, breathless. "With you." Kenan didn't speak. He just pulled her close. And for the first time in what felt like forever, they were no longer hiding. But peace doesn't come so easily. Viral wouldn't let go that easily. He started a legal war, accused Hazal of betrayal, dragged her family's name through the mud. The world began whispering again. But this time, Hazal didn't hide. She walked with her head high, because she had nothing left to fear. And Kenan stood beside her, not just as a lover, but as a shield. Together, they faced the chaos. Together, they stood in the storm. Their love wasn't a secret anymore. It was a fight for truth, for freedom, for the life they always dreamed of. And even though the world tried to break them, they had something stronger than fear. They had each other. The storm had reached its peak. Viral had lost control, over Hazal, over his plans, over himself. But even in the chaos, Hazal and Kenan stood firm, together. Their love wasn't just a dream anymore. It was their truth, lived, fought for, earned. But Viral wasn't done. He couldn't bear to lose. He threatened everything, even tried to use Hazal's past against her, her fear, her silence, all the things he once used to keep her close. But this time, Hazal didn't break. She looked him in the eye and said, "You can't touch what I've built with love. Not anymore." Kenan stayed by her side, like always, not as a savior, but as a man who had loved her through every version of herself. They both knew they were at the edge now. One last battle, one last push to be free. And then, the truth came out. All of Viral's lies, manipulations, threats, exposed. He was arrested. And just like that, the shadow finally lifted. Hazal could breathe again. No more chains, no more fear, just love. She walked to the sea, to the place where it all began. The same shore where Kenan had first asked for forever. And this time she had an answer. Kenan waited for her there, eyes full of hope and tears. Hazal smiled. "I'm not afraid to love you anymore," she whispered. They stood at the water's edge, the wind gentle, the sky golden. He took her hand, softly, slowly, surely. And in that moment, all the pain, all the separation, all the silence faded, because their love had survived it all. It had sunk once, but like a pearl lost in deep water, it had risen again. More beautiful, more unbreakable. Hazal and Kenan kissed, not to forget the past, but to welcome the future. Together, at last. Some love stories leave scars. Others leave memories that never fade. If this one touched your heart, give it a like. And for more stories that stay with you, don't forget to subscribe.